Hi everyone, I'm going to try this out. I've never done this before and I didn't even really get ready, but just was in my basement and decided to do it. So I thought that I could do a little circle time for you, maybe give mom and dad a little respite and sing you our circle song and read a book. And even if it's a little long, maybe the kiddos will watch it just because it's on video and it's somebody they haven't seen in a few days, or now it's been a week. I hope you're all doing well during this time and getting out and enjoying the mild weather, especially like yesterday. But anyways, here I go. Yeah, you'll see some junk in the background. We're doing some basement cleaning. And my dog right here is trying to join. He's sitting on my lap. Who's ready for circle? Who's ready for circle? Clap your hands, clap your hands, clap them up high, clap them down low, clap them fast, clap them slowly, shake them up high, shake them down low, shake them fast. Fast. Shake them slowly. Then sometimes we do, let's clap them loud. And then clap them soft. Let's not make any sound. And then we do a little joking sometimes. Can we shake them loud? No, they don't make any noise. We shake them quietly. All right, and then we wiggle our sillies out, and maybe we kick our feet a little, stomp, and we'll do some follow the leader stomping. Then we take 3 deep breaths, and the way we take our breaths is we smell something, and then we blow it away. So let's say one of the popular things would be to smell the birthday cake, and then blow out the candles. Smell that birthday cake, and blow out the candles. As you can imagine, those deep breaths are sometimes more for me than for the kiddos. But anyways, hi kiddos. I'm here in my basement and now I'm going to read a book. Here's a new book called Ginger by Charlotte Voke. Ginger was a lucky cat. He lived with a little girl who made him delicious meals and gave him a beautiful basket where he would curl up and close his eyes. Here he is, fast asleep. But here he is again, wide awake. What's this? A kitten. He'll be a nice new friend for you, Ginger, said the little girl. But Ginger didn't want a new friend, especially one like this. Ginger hoped the kitten would go away. But he didn't. Everywhere Ginger went, the kitten followed, springing out from behind doors, leaping onto Ginger's back. Even eating Ginger's food. Oh no. What a naughty kitten. But what upset Ginger more than anything was that whenever he got into his beautiful basket, the kitten always climbed in too. And the little girl didn't do anything about it. So Ginger decided to leave home. He went out through the cat flap, and he didn't come back. The kitten waited for a while. Then he got into Ginger's basket. It wasn't the same without Ginger. The kitten played with some flowers. Then he found somewhere to sharpen his claws. The little girl found him on the table drinking some milk. You naughty kitten, she said. I thought you were with Ginger. Where is he anyway? She looked in Ginger's basket, but of course he wasn't there. Perhaps he's eating his food, she said, but Ginger wasn't there either. I hope he's not upset, she said. I hope he hasn't run away. She put on her galoshes and went out into the garden, and that is where she found him. A very wet, sad, cold Ginger hiding under a bush. The little girl carried Ginger and the kitten inside. "It's a pity you can't be friends," she said. She gave Ginger a special meal. She gave the kitten a little plate of his own. And then she tucked Ginger into his own warm basket. All she could find for the kitten to sleep in was a little tiny cardboard box. But the kitten didn't mind, because cats love cardboard boxes, however small they are. So when the little girl went in to see the two cats again, this is how she found them. And now Ginger and the naughty kitten get along very well. Most of the time. The end. When I finished that book, look who sat on my lap. PJ. PJ wants attention. Anyways, I think the funny thing at the end of that book is the use of a box. So hey, if you have any empty boxes, no matter the size, toddlers love them too. So now I thought I would do a finger play that we have done before, but that we tend to do a lot in the spring. It is about animals' homes. It's very quick and easy to learn. Here's a nest for the robin. Here's a hive for the bee. Here's a hole for the bunny, or squirrel or mouse. And here's a house for me. Here's a longer book, one of my childhood favorites, Make Way for Ducklings by Robert McCloskey. Make Way for Ducklings. Mr. and Mrs. Mallard were looking for a place to live, but every time Mr. Mallard saw what looked like a nice place, Mrs. Mallard said it was no good. There were sure to be foxes in the woods or turtles in the water, and she was not going to raise a family where there might be foxes or turtles. So they flew on and on. When they got to Boston, they felt too tired to fly any further. There was a nice pond in the public garden with a little island on it, the very place to spend the night, quacked Mr. Mallard. So down they flapped. Next morning, they fished for their breakfast in the mud at the bottom of the pond, but they didn't find much. Just as they were getting ready to start on their way, a strange, enormous bird came by. It was pushing a boat full of people, and there was a man sitting on its back. "Good morning," quacked Mr. Mallard, being polite. The big bird was too proud to answer. But the people on the boat threw peanuts into the water, so the Mallards followed them all round the pond and got another breakfast, better than the first. "I like this place," said Mrs. Mallard, as they climbed out on the bank and waddled along. "Why don't we build a nest and raise our ducklings right in this pond? There are no foxes and no turtles, and the people feed us peanuts. What could be better?" "Good," said Mr. Mallard, delighted that at last Mrs. Mallard had found a place that suited her. But... "Look out!" squawked Mrs. Mallard, all of a dither. "You'll get run over." And when she got her breath, she added, "This is no place for babies, with all those horrid things rushing about. We'll have to look somewhere else." So they flew over Beacon Hill and round the State House, but there was no place there. They looked in Louisburg Square, but there was no water to swim in. Then they flew over the Charles River. "This is better," quacked Mr. Mallard. "That island looks like a nice, quiet place, and it's only a little way from the public garden." "Yes," said Mrs. Mallard, remembering the peanuts. "That looks like just the right place to hatch ducklings." So they chose a cozy spot among the bushes near the water and settled down to build their nest. And only just in time, for now they were beginning to molt. All their old wing feathers started to drop out, and they would not be able to fly again until the new ones grew in. But of course they could swim, and one day they swam over to the park on the riverbank, and there they met a policeman called Michael. Michael fed them peanuts, and after that, the Mallards called on Michael every day. After Mrs. Mallard had laid 8 eggs in the nest, she couldn't go to visit Michael anymore because she had to sit on the eggs to keep them warm. She moved off the nest only to get a drink of water, or to have her lunch, or to count the eggs and make sure they were all there. One day, the ducklings hatched out. First came Jack, then Cack, and then Lack, then Mack and Knack and Whack and Pack and Quack. Mr. and Mrs. Mallard were bursting with pride. It was a great responsibility, taking care of so many ducklings, and it kept them very busy. One day, Mr. Mallard decided he'd like to take a trip to see what the rest of the river was like further on. So off he set. "I'll meet you in a week in the public garden," he quacked over his shoulder. "Take good care of the ducklings." "Don't you worry," said Mrs. Mallard. "I know all about bringing up children." And she did. She taught them how to swim and dive. She taught them to walk in a line, to come when they were called, and to keep a safe distance from bikes and scooters and other things with wheels. When at last she felt perfectly satisfied with them, she said one morning, "Come along, children, follow me." Before you could wink an eyelash, Jack, Cack, Lack, Mack, Knack, Whack, Pack, and Quack fell into line, just as they had been taught. Mrs. Mallard led the way into the water, and they swam behind her to the opposite bank. There they waded ashore and waddled along until they came to the highway. Mrs. Mallard stepped out to cross the road. Honk, honk, went the horns on the speeding cars. Quack, went Mrs. Mallard as she tumbled back again. Quack, 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 went Jack, Cack, Lack, Mack, Knack, Whack, Pack, and Quack, just as loud as their little quackers could quack. The cars kept speeding by and honking, and Mrs. Mallard and the ducklings kept right on quack, quack, quacking. Poor little guys. They made such a noise that Michael came running, waving his arms and blowing his whistle. He planted himself in the center of the road, raised one hand to stop the traffic, and then beckoned with the other, the way policemen do, for Mrs. Mallard to cross over. As soon as Mrs. Mallard and the ducklings were safe on the other side and on their way down Mount Vernon Street, Michael rushed back to his police booth. He called Clancy at headquarters and said, "There's a family of ducks walking down the street." Clancy said, "Family of what?" "Ducks," yelled Michael. "Send a police car, quick." Meanwhile, Mrs. Mallard had reached the corner bookshop and turned into Charles Street, with Jack, Cack, Lack, Mack, Knack, Whack, Pack, and Quack all marching in line behind her. Everyone stared. An old lady from Beacon Hill said, "Isn't it amazing?" And the man who swept the street said, "Well, now, ain't that nice?" And when Mrs. Mallard heard them, she was so proud she tipped her nose in the air and walked along with an extra swing in her waddle. When they came to the corner of Beacon Street, there was the police car with 4 policemen that Clancy had sent from headquarters. The policemen held back the traffic so Mrs. Mallard and the Ducklings could march across the street. Right into the public garden. Inside the gate, they all turned round to say thank you to the policemen. The policemen smiled and waved goodbye. When they reached the pond and swam across to the little island, there was Mr. Mallard waiting for them, just as he had promised. The Ducklings liked the new island so much that they decided to live there. All day long they follow the swan boats and eat peanuts. And when night falls, they swim to their little island and go to sleep. The end. And then, as you've learned from Daily Notes, we end circle with one of our songs to name each child and let them go wash their hands for snack. So I'm going to start with Hooray. Ready? Ready, toddlers? Hooray for toddlers, hooray for toddlers. Someone in the crowd is singing hooray for toddlers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who you going to cheer for? Toddlers, that's who.